Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jayam Vishapad Paramahamsa Padavirajakacharya Astatara Satta Hisavanga Shila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Hisavanga Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anandakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Shri Krishna Balaram Logiraj Shona Shingadev Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gonitai Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to these humble devotees. All glories to these humble devotees. All glories to these humble devotees. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, everyone, and welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Okay, I've been given the wrong volume. Could somebody grab the correct volume? Thank you very much. I think it was me actually that got the wrong one. Okay, yes, here we are. So we're up to the third canto, chapter 18, which is entitled The Battle Between Lord Boar and Hiranyaksha. Right, so let's have a look here. Here we go. Okay, you can all see that? Good. Okay, here we go. Please repeat. Right, so we're doing text 3. Ahainam ehyagya mahim vimanchano rasoka samvishva shrijayam arpita nasvasti yasyasya nayan mamekshata Suradamasadita sukkarakrite Ahainam ehyagya mahim vimanchano Rasoka samvishva shrijayam arpita Nasvasti yasyasya naya mamekshata Suradamasadita sukkarakrite. Shall I do it one more time? Ahainam ehyagya mahim vimanchano Rasoka samvishva shrijayam arpita Nasvasti yasyasya nayam mamekshata Suradamasadita sukkarakrite. Would somebody like to chant? Ahainam ehyagya mahim vimanchano Rasoka samvishva shrijayam arpita Suradamasadita sukkarakrite. Ahainam ehyagya mahim vimanchano Rasoka samvishva shrijayam arpita Nasvasti yasya nayam mamekshata Suradamasadita sukkarakrite. Okay, some of the ladies. Anyone? Ahainam ehyagya mahim vimanchano Rasoka samvishva shrijayam arpita Nasvasti yasyasya nayam mamekshata Suradamasadita sukkarakrite. Okay, synonyms. Thank you, everyone. We go to the synonyms. Thank you. Oh, right. Okay. Hiranyaksha said, Enam, to the Lord, Ehi, come and fight. Agya, O fool. Mahim, the earth. Vimancha, give up. Na, to us. Rasa okasam, of the inhabitants of the lower regions. Vishvashija, by the Creator of the universe. Iyam, this earth, arpita, entrusted, na, not, svasti, well-being, yasyasi, you will go, anaya, with this, mama ikshata, while I am seeing, sura adama, O lowest of the demigods, asadita, having taken, sukara akrite, the form of a boar. Right. Okay, so here we have the translation. The demon addressed the Lord, O best of the demigods, dressed in the form of a boar, just hear me. This earth is entrusted to us, the inhabitants of the lower regions, and you cannot take it from my presence and not be hurt by me. Translation, please repeat. The demon addressed the Lord. O best of the demigods, dressed in the form of a boar, just hear me. This earth is entrusted to us, the inhabitants of the lower regions, and you cannot take it from my presence and not be hurt by me. Okay, so here we come to Srila Prabhupada's purport. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sridhar Swami, commenting on this verse, states that although the demon wanted to deride the personality of Godhead in the form of a boar, actually he worshipped him in several words. For example, he addressed him as Vana Gochara, which means one who is a resident of the forest. But another meaning of Vana Gochara is one who lies on the water. Vishnu lies on the water, so the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be properly addressed in this way. The demon also addressed him as Mriga, indicating unintentionally that the Supreme Personality is sought after by great sages, saintly persons, and transcendentalists. He also addressed him as Agya. Sridhar Swami says that Gya means knowledge, and there is no knowledge which is unknown to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Indirectly, therefore, the demon said that Vishnu knows everything. The demon addressed him as Suradama. Sura means the demigods, and Adama means Lord of all there is. He is Lord of all the demigods, therefore he is the best of the demigods, or God. When the demon used the phrase, in my presence, the implied meaning was, in spite of my presence, you are completely able to take away the earth. Na svasti yasyasi, unless you kindly take this earth from our custody, there can be no good fortune for us. Om Gyatim Randasya Gunandana Shalakara Chakshur Unmilitam Minatasma Shri Guruvay Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master opened my darkened eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So, this confrontation between Hiranyaksha and Lord Boar, Lord Varahadev. So, we have just heard in the previous verse yesterday how Hiranyaksha was watching Lord Varahadev pick up the earth on his lotus tusks from the bottom of the Garbhodaka ocean, the depths of the Garbhodaka ocean. We can see some different artists' impressions here of this wonderful pastime. Some of the artists' impressions that I've found are indeed very, very old, probably at least hundreds of years old. So Hiranyaksha was laughing at Lord Varahadev, right, when he saw him lift up the earth, and then he sets about challenging the Lord and criticizing him with all sorts of horrible words. And this type of verbal abuse of the Lord that we are reading in this verse and the next few verses to follow, this is actually very typical of demoniac personalities when they are not getting what they want and when they are feeling that there is somebody there who is going to be able to challenge them or punish them for their sins. And this is, of course, the real reason why Lord Varahdeva appeared. It was to punish Hiranyaksha for his treacherous and wicked acts against all living beings on the earth. Right? So this kind of mentality, right, where we are hearing verbal abuse of godly personalities, whoever they may be, this is not only typical of our demons appearing within the Srimad Bhagavatam, but as we know today, this sort of language is happening all throughout the world. And earlier in this chapter, earlier in this canto, in chapter 14, we were hearing just how sinful Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu really were. They used to kill, it is said they used to kill innocent living beings just for the fun of it, and they would torture women and enrage the saintly persons and just generally create chaos all over the universe. And what makes this pastime quite remarkable in one sense is that all of this took place in Satya Yuga, also known as Krita Yuga, which is known for its piety and peacefulness and saintliness and virtue. Right? So, now in Srila Prabhupada's purport today, he addresses one very interesting phenomenon. Right? It is where we have Hiranyaksha attempting to vilify and criticize Lord Bor, but actually he ends up glorifying him. Right? So with regards to this comment by Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada explaining this, we need to understand Krishna's absolute nature. Right? So Krishna is above all spiritual and material phenomena. They all have their source in him. Everything is an expansion of the Supreme Lord. And therefore, when a demon is trying to criticize and defame Krishna, they can never actually besmirch his good repute, because Krishna is above all material phenomena, including words, actually, the words that we use. So Krishna is not susceptible to the impurities that are issuing from the mouths of demons who harbor ill intent towards him, right? Even though we do hear in a few verses along in this chapter that actually Krishna was hurt. He was feeling a bit hurt by the words, right? And that Hiranyaksha was speaking. And in that purport, I think it's verse 6 that's coming up, Srila Prabhupada explains that, Krishna has feelings. It's not that, he is not sensitive to this. So, Krishna was feeling a bit hurt by these words. But nevertheless, so, the original, or I don't know if we can use the word dharma, the original dharma of words and conversation is actually to glorify the Supreme Lord and to glorify his activities and his pastimes. Right? So again, attempts made by demoniac personalities to defame Krishna, to insult him, or to insult his paraphernalia, to insult his wonderful pastimes, or to insult his devotees, inevitably, eventually, it ends in failure. Now, another interesting element in today's shloka is that we have Hiranyaksha is saying to Lord Varahdeva that if he takes the earth from the demons, in other words, if Krishna rescues Mother Bhumi, then Krishna will definitely be injured by the demons. So this is, an illusion that is experienced on behalf of the demons, right? The illusion that, first illusion that Krishna is acting against the best interests of the demons by hampering their activities, and the illusion that the demons are actually powerful enough to injure Krishna. Of course, as I was just saying, we hear in text 6 that Krishna was a little bit hurt, by the words, but ultimately, nobody can actually injure Krishna in the sense that he becomes debilitated like that. So the demoniac personalities who are illusioned about themselves and about the Supreme Lord, we know that they are overcome by the two lower modes of material nature, namely Rajagun and Tamagun. Now, this element or this characteristic of illusion illusion is endemic to Tamagun, right? The darkest of the material energies. It is listed both in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam as coming from Tamagun. But even Rajagun also creates this kind of bewildering and confusing circumstances for the materially embodied souls. Now, these characteristics that I've put up here, these are just some of the characteristics of the two lower modes that contribute to this bewildering and illusioning effect of the material energy. There are many, many more, but these are the ones that I had in my lists that sort of came up as the main ones. So these material qualities, they cause the individual to imagine themselves to be at the center of everything that is desirable within the world, right? So we're talking about commodities such as luxurious goods, luxury items. So they are seen by demons as being intended for their own enjoyment, right, rather than for the Lord's enjoyment, which is the actual case. But another type of illusion is that the demoniac personalities, they will also see other people who are somehow appealing or attractive as being for their own enjoyment, right? And a classic example of this was Ravan, right? So now we're going to Treta Yuga, right? Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu took birth as Ravan and Kumbhakarna in Treta Yuga. And Ravan was so audacious that he kidnapped the wife of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right, Sita Devi. Thinking that, I should enjoy Sita, she should be for my own pleasure. Also, Ravan created this golden illusory city on the island of Lanka, which is today Sri Lanka. And in that illusory city, everything was designed for Ravan's pleasure. Right? And in that city, Ravan was imagining that nobody and nothing can take that enjoyment away from him, not even the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's actually many examples throughout the Shastra of very formidable demons who were so egotistical that they can't actually see anything but their own personal desires. And of course this means that they are blinded by Krishna's illusory energy in the form of Maya Devi because they are influenced by the two lower material modes. And of course sadly today also we do have our modern day type of demons. We have tyrants and dictators, right, who have risen to power, right, just like Hiranyaksha did and Hiranyakashipu did, and even as Duryodhana did in the Mahabharata. Right, we know Duryodhana, even though he was, such a vile character that everyone recognized that he was unqualified to take over the kingdom from Dhritarashtra. By the time the Battle of Kurukshetra came around, Duryodhana had managed to secure, I think it was 11 Akshahinis. An Akshahini is a military phalanx that's made up of thousands of horses and chariots and elephants, compared to the Pandavas' side, which only had 7. I'm pretty sure that was the ratio. So even Duryodhana managed to, with his really wicked personality, managed to gather so many forces on the earth at that time. So now Srila Prabhupada has discussed some of our contemporary personalities, such as Stalin and Napoleon Bonaparte and Hitler. Right, they were all tyrants, they were dictators. And certainly they did inflict unimaginable cruelty onto populations, not only onto populations who they were at war with, but also onto the people within their own countries, right? And it is said, I think for most of these leaders, if not all of them, whilst their own people, whilst their own soldiers were either suffering and dying on the battlefield or starving to death, they themselves were enjoying material luxuries. So we do have actually a very current example of this. I won't say his name, but it is the current leader of North Korea, right? I don't know, I've been following this online. This is happening today, right? At this time, the people in North Korea are literally starving to death. You can see on the footpaths of Korea people starving to death. Perhaps not everywhere, but they are there, and people also in their homes, they are starving to death. Right? It is said that the people in North Korea, they have virtually nothing. They have no food, and they are forced to go out into the fields and the hills to catch rats and snakes to eat them, just because there literally is no food. So this is reports from those who have managed to escape from North Korea. The images that you see here on the right-hand side, these are actual images. These are possessions of the leader who is enjoying all these super luxurious commodities at the same time, right, whilst his people are suffering. Right. So again, we have a situation in which a particular individual rises to power, right, just like Hiranyaksha did and just like Hiranyakashipu did, by dominating the populations and forcing the people, right, even trying to force the earth herself to comply with their own personal desires. In other words, their rise to power has nothing to do with any goodwill towards their own people, right? But rather it is to exploit the lands and to exploit the people in any which way they can for their own pleasure, right? And this was the agenda of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So we can certainly understand why Krishna comes personally to kill these demons, right? Now, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 7th chapter, text 37, we have a very nice shloka. Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. Svaprananya parapranay prapushnatya girina kalaha tadvadastasya hi shreyo yadosha yatyada puman. A cruel and wretched person who maintains his existence at the cost of others' lives deserves to be killed for his own well-being. Otherwise, he will go down by his own actions. Right? So when Krishna is coming to kill these various demons, right, like Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, he is not only helping the innocent people who have been suffering due to their atrocities, but he also helps those demons themselves, because he is relieving them from their own sinfulness. Right? And just one interesting pointer I was reading this morning, that, you know, when Krishna is killing these demons, when he actually does the killing, it's actually Krishna's Vasudeva expansion who is doing that killing, because Krishna himself is always in the Vrindavan mood, in the Vrindavan Leela. In any case, so in today's verse, right, when Hiranyaksha is saying to Lord Varahadev, just hear me, you know, you cannot take this earth from me and not be hurt by me. This is this excessive self-absorption on behalf of Hiranyaksha, which is causing him to imagine that he has a right to the earth and that no one, not even the Supreme Lord, can interfere with his personal desires to enjoy the earth as he pleases, right? So Srila Prabhupada has commented, right, on, again, just getting back to a more contemporary example. Prabhupada said about Stalin, he said, as soon as Stalin found that somebody opposed him, he immediately cut his throat. Right? And as we can see, this is exactly what is happening today in some of these countries in which the leaders have become so excessively self-absorbed that they lose the ability to understand their own sinfulness, they lose the ability to understand their own selfishness, and somehow or other they also seem to lose the ability to be able to see that those who are at the receiving end of their actions are also suffering. And as we know, like Srila Prabhupada says, when somebody dares to speak up about their wickedness, immediately they are killed or they are imprisoned. And sadly, we're going to be seeing more of this as Kali Yuga moves forward. So what this means is that we are witnessing ahankara at its most extreme expression, false ego. When an individual exploits others to the point of torturing and killing them, just so that they themselves can enjoy. And yes, this is the culmination of excessive absorption in the two lower modes of material nature. Now, our Shastras are actually full of instructions and examples of how the individual jiva, that means us, how we can and should act to avoid adopting an exploitative mentality ourselves, right? How we can avoid that. So, maintaining selfish thoughts leads to exploitative behavior. And selfishness is what permeates the two lower modes of material nature, right? Unless the jiva is acting on the platform of surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his representative, then he will unavoidably be exploiting somebody or something within his environment. Right? This phenomenon occurs because exploitation is actually intrinsic to the material world. Right? You cannot escape it. The material energy does not allow the jiva to live without exploitation in some form or other. Because actually everything that we see around us, in truth, it is intended for the worship and for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So if we are not using it for that, then we are actually exploiters. So, if we ourselves want to avoid becoming exploiters, and if we also want to avoid being exploited by others to achieve both of these goals, we need to shelter in the Supreme Lord. So in Srila Prabhupada's purport to today's verse, we do hear a number of wonderful glorifications of Krishna, such as He is Lord of all there is, He is the one who knows everything, and that He is indeed very capable of taking care of Mother Earth despite of Hiranyaksha's presence. So Krishna can, of course, rescue Mother Bhumi from any type of calamity from the hands of the most wicked exploiter. He has done so in the past, and He will continue to do so into the future, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of which individual may come into power and try to dominate the living beings and dominate the earth. And in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in chapter 3, right, that is entitled the Bhumi Gita, right, in other words, the Song of Mother Earth. And in Mother Bhumi's dialogue, which spans 13 verses, she is actually laughing at all these demons, these demoniac leaders and kings who come and try to conquer over her and exploit her. Right? And she is laughing because, right, as a devotee of the Supreme Lord, as a demigoddess, and as the consort of Lord Varahadev, right, Mother Bhumi is Lord Varahadev's consort, she knows that she is actually protected by the Supreme Lord, and therefore, these demoniac kings will ultimately be unsuccessful. And towards the end of her dialogue in the Bhumi Gita, she actually lists a whole, recites a whole list of names of kings who have come to earth to try to dominate over her. And in that list, we have Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Excuse me. My water. Could you please? It's in my bag. I think it's just a water bottle. So, we need to raise our own awareness of the fact that, thank you very much, excuse me 1 second. We need to raise our own awareness of the fact that absorption in material life means absorption in selfishness. Right, and selfish pursuits lead to illusion and bewilderment. Right, because, as I was saying, these psychological afflictions, they are actually unavoidable consequences of the lower material modes of nature. Any individual who indulges in worldly pursuits, right, that means chasing after self-aggrandizement, chasing after self-pleasures, chasing after self-enjoyments, chasing after self-indulgence, right, such an individual will become bewildered and they will become illusioned by the material energy. It is unavoidable. The illusions, that are put forward by the material energy, they may be very sophisticated, they might appear to be very sophisticated, and they might appear to not actually constitute illusions. But I can guarantee you, anything that presents itself in front of us that is suggesting that we are here on this planet in this lifetime just simply to enjoy ourselves and to take advantage of this earth, that is illusion. Right, that is illusion. And sadly today, most people take these illusions as representing reality. Right? So if we start thinking, that we ourselves are capable of sort of dealing with the material energy, or as some striking a deal with the material energy, whereby we get what we want and still come out unscathed, well, no. That is illusion. Then we are falsely thinking about those things. So, the Shastras actually teaches in various ways that the only way towards real and lasting satisfaction and happiness is to surrender to Krishna's plan and to respond to his desires rather than prioritizing our own. And I've put this picture up here, right? Just, we see Krishna is in the center here. He's in the center of all of his cowherd friends. So all of Krishna's most confidential friends and servants, his devotees, they know this secret to life, that by keeping Krishna in the center and constantly chanting his holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That is how we become happy and satisfied, and that is how we stop hankering for things that do not belong to us, things that we have not been given in this lifetime. Right? So this process of bhakti yoga that Srila Prabhupada has given us, it is effective and it is efficient in delivering us from the suffering that comes from illusion and bewilderment, right? The illusion whereby we are lusting for things that do not belong to us. Bhakti yoga, of course, leads us to, hopefully, leads us to devotion, pure devotion for Krishna. But because it is so potent and so powerful, it also has this effect whereby we automatically become purified, from being polluted by the lower material modes, whereby we are misconceiving and whereby we are misunderstanding that what presents itself to us in our environments is simply meant for us to enjoy. It's actually these very strong illusions. So the process of bhakti yoga acts on that level as well, to help us to come away from that. Okay, well, I'm a couple of minutes before the, before 8:15, but that was pretty much all I had prepared for today. And I was wondering if anyone would like to comment or ask a question or... Oh, thank you very much, Saranya. Thank you. Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes, Ram Prasad Prabhu. Well, what else, like Bhakti Yoga, the process of Bhakti Yoga that Srila Prabhupada has given to us, the goal of Bhakti Yoga is, of course, pure love of God, pure love of Krishna. But I was saying, because the process is so powerful and so potent, it also acts on the level of clearing out our material inebrities, our material entanglements. It acts on that level as well, simply by sticking to this process that Srila Prabhupada has given us. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Lucas.
Thanks for the class, Padma. The Bhagavatam verse that you quoted from the first canto saying that people
that somebody should, if somebody is exploiting others, then they deserve to be killed. Yeah.
How do you understand that in respect to, like, you know, plants being living entities as well?
Plants?
Yeah, plants.
Right.
Like, obviously we have to kill them to eat the vegetables and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then, like, we obviously told they're also jivas.
They are jivas.
And we can also sustain ourselves just of eating it, having milk and fruit and stuff like that. So how
right. Okay, so thank you very much for your question. So this question actually comes up quite often by people who for example, people who first encounter the devotees, and they might say, oh, you know, you guys are vegetarian, but you know, you're killing the plants. How do you justify that? So I actually did a study just with regards to the human diet. Do you want me to comment on the human diet or just plants? Yeah. So with regards to the human diet, like, or the vegetarian diet, if we look at all the plant foods that we consume, right, we have fruits, nuts, we have what's called fruit vegetables, we have grains, and then we have the root vegetables. Out of all of those varieties, and our dairy, out of all of those varieties of plants, right, we are not injuring the plants when we take nuts, fruit vegetables, the grains. My understanding is that the plants are pretty much at the end of their lifetime when we are harvesting the grains. So really the only one that's left is the root vegetables, you know, where we're pulling them out of the ground. So, you know, this is why Krishna and Srila Prabhupada are teaching that, you know, this process it still has some slight imperfection or some slight blemish, and that is why we definitely need to offer our food to Krishna so that he can remove whatever residual sin is still attached to that process of eating plants. But yeah, generally when you look at the vegetarian diet, it's actually very minimal in terms of the harm that we cause to plant species. But with regards to other interaction with plants, it is true that, you know, like in our Shastras and in the Puranas, we read about how plants such as trees really need to be very carefully dealt with. What does anyone know that there's some discussion about trees and the demigods? Does anyone remember that? Shastra Prabhu, you remember that? Yeah. In any case, you know, there are teachings. There is one in the Mahabharata where Yudhisthira Maharaj is saying to his brothers, you know, we need to be careful of what we take from nature, you know, because otherwise nature is going to become exploited and so forth. So, you know, as Vaishnavas, we actually do have a reverence for all forms of life. It doesn't matter which species of life they are in. It can even be a bacteria or a germ, right? A bacteria is still a jiva. They are a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, right? So I would say the first protocol is to make sure that our consciousness is as good as we can make it in terms of appreciating and valuing and seeing all other life forms as being part and parcel of Krishna. If you are in a situation where you have to cut down a bush or a tree, there are better ways to do it, right? For example, you can give them some charnamrita before you cut them down. There are pastimes going, you know, back throughout history where we hear of the trees, like in the holy dhams, wanting to be watered with Ganges water. And so, yeah, you know, and also we can just chant. Like I think I was saying in my last class or the class before that if we Prabhupada is teaching that if we come across some little critter, you know, some little creature, or it could be a plant, you know, certainly we can chant Hare Krishna to them, right? And if we can give them some prasad in some form, that is also very good, you know, even if it's just splashing some prasadam water on them or something. You know, if you are in a position where you have to uproot them or kill them. Am I answering your question? Yeah. A bit of a long answer to a short question. Okay, does anyone else have any point about what we were discussing today? Maybe specifically about this exploitative mentality that comes from the lower modes of material nature, that is dangerous for the spiritual jiva, that's us, right? As long as we are materially embodied, we do have to be very careful of that propensity, right? Being exposed to it ourselves and also succumbing to it ourselves. Right? I mean, Prabhupada says this world is a world of cheater and cheated. Those, the cheaters and the cheated. That's, those who want to be, those who are exploited by others and those who exploit others. Right? This is the nature of the lower modes of material nature. We have to take it very seriously. Srila Prabhupada discusses the lower modes of material nature so much. Right? In a lot of his purports, he discusses it in many of his lectures. Right? And we also know, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the Shastras deal mainly with the modes of material nature. Right? And so my understanding is that this is predominantly to warn us, right, to learn to not become victims of this exploitative mentality. Yes, Lucas?
So my kind of level of consciousness at the minute is like I want to be with Krishna, but like the service, that comes kind of before the service. Like I want to serve Krishna so I can be with him.
Yes.
But it's like the predominating thing is that I want to be with Krishna. It's not that I want to serve, if you know what I mean. So it's like I'm serving to be with Krishna instead of just serving for serving's sake.
Yes. And what is your question about that?
Like, would that mean that that's a sort of exploitation?
No, serving Krishna is not exploitation.
But if you're doing it
that
for
is the
just
opposite
to be
of
with
exploitation.
him, if you're just doing it to be with him, though, it's like if that's because I've heard also that you serve so Krishna sees you instead of just to be with him.
Oh yeah. Okay, so desiring to be with Krishna is not a negative desire by any means, right? Yes, it is true. This teaching is there that we should act in such a way that Krishna sees us. Yeah. But both desires are actually a part of devotional life. We want to please Krishna, and whilst we are still materially conditioned here in this world, we do our best to try and estimate how we can best do things that is going to be the most pleasing to Srila Prabhupada. How are we going to decorate Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasan on his appearance day? How are we going to dress for our lordships? How are we going to cook for them? How are we going to write and publish for them? Right? So the process of devotional service, means engaging our mind and intellect, we learn the most out of taking the example of the Guru, how we are serving the Supreme Lord and how Srila Prabhupada is serving all the acharyas. And in that process, yes, this desire to be with Krishna, it does increase. It increases in the heart of the devotee. We can't, that there is. There's nothing we can do about it. and it's a good desire. But that teaching, that specific teaching that we should act in such a way so that Krishna sees us, my understanding is that particular teaching is that Krishna is always there and he's always observing his devotee. It's not like we need to sort of check, is Krishna looking at me in this particular point? You are always, Krishna's gaze will always be upon you. If your intention is correct, and the intention being to please Krishna. Yeah, and yes, your liberation from material entanglement will come by the mercy of Krishna, and it will come at the right time. Yeah. So our focus should be to try and please the spiritual master, to try and please the Vaishnavas, right? To be the servant of the servant of the servant, But when and if this desire to be with Krishna, when that manifests in your heart and when it increases, take it as a blessing. Really, it's a very wonderful emotion to have. Yeah. Yes, Manibanda Prabhu.
Just to add to that, we could say that because Krishna is absolute, serving him in separation and being with him is non-different.
Thank you. That is a very nice insight. Yes. Yeah. Yes. It's the complete process. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay. Did you have a question? Yeah.
So part of this going into like the illusion of like believing that everything belongs, say, to the individual who's fallen, like Kim Jong-un, for example, or whatever.
Everything is...
they believe that like it's for their own sense gratification.
Yes.
Sense gratification.
Yeah.
And the illusion is that anything belongs to the individual. My question is, are there things that belong to the individual, or is that all purely... going to be part of the illusion?
It's a good question, thank you. Well, so tell me your name again. Daniel. Aiden. Yeah, Aiden is asking, is there actually anything in this world that we can truly say belongs to us? Yeah, was that your question? Yeah. So it is a good question. We need to understand that ultimately everything is the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? We ourselves did not create anything on this planet. We don't have that within our power, right? So everything, Krishna is the supreme proprietor, or the supreme owner, the supreme possessor of anything. What we as individuals have ended up with, yes, we have a duty to use whatever is, say for example within our bank account, we should use that to try and please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to try and please Guru, right? So, it's all of our acharyas, all of our spiritual masters going way back in time are teaching this, that we should have, or we should use for ourselves just enough to keep the body and the soul together. Right? This is Srila Prabhupada's teaching. We don't need very much to do this. Right? Let us take a very, very good example of this. Our 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. They had a little bit of cloth on their body. They didn't even have a house to live in. They would sleep under a tree. Perhaps they are very extreme examples. But the point is this, that we don't actually need, very much material facility in order to please Krishna. Right? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, anyone who offers me with love and devotion a flower, a leaf, a little water or fruit, I will accept it. So Krishna is satisfied with very little. And when we endeavor to satisfy Krishna, he will provide for us. He will protect us. Right? So, we should try and not subscribe to this contemporary mentality out there, and it's getting worse and worse, that we need more money, that we need more facility, that we need more. This is why Mother Bhumi in Kali Yuga, right, our current cosmological age, gets a really hard time from the demoniac personalities, because they get into this mentality that they need more, they want more, bigger, more. Yeah, we only need very, very little actually. So your questions, do we actually own those, the few things that we have been given? Well, you could accept that as, yes, this is temporarily my property, and I'm going, I'm using it both for my own basic maintenance and to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I don't need more than that. But also understand that ultimately Krishna is the supreme owner of everything. Yeah?
Would that include, this feels like it might be a silly question, but does that also include things like our will our thoughts and our emotions. Those things belong to Krishna, our destiny.
Yes, everything. Right. Srila Prabhupada explains this. Krishna is the supreme proprietor. Yeah. I mean, what is there, just looking in this temple room, for example, what is there in our immediate or remote environments that has not been produced from the elements of this earth? Did we produce those elements? Did we manifest those elements? No, we can't do that. But we can accept, the little bit that we've ended up with. Yes, if we use it in the right way, right, to just basically maintain ourselves and serve Krishna, that's okay. But just understand the bigger picture. Yeah. Okay, well, I think I might have to stop there because it's breakfast. Thank you everyone for listening. Jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.